Hey everybody, hope you guys are all having a good day. Been a minute since I put out a video. I worked a couple of shifts, some graveyard shifts, and got a couple days off, and then I worked a set of day shifts. So back in the garage today playing around, and what I did is I did a bunch of looking around on the internet, and I found out that when I made this video on my intake air temp, I showed you guys this video where I cut this pipe, cut a hole in it, and put the grommet and the intake air temp sensor in, and kind of believe that was wrong. What I really need to do is, here's my intake pipe right here going into my intake manifold. Okay, and this is just downstream. I don't know if you can see it. This comes through my radiator shroud off of my intercooler. Okay, so this temperature is after the intercooler air, right before it goes into the intake manifold. So now what I'm finding out is this is the air temp that I need to measure accurately for my air temperature to the terminator. So it's not over there like I had it before. It's not the intake air into the system. So I can hook that up. I've been told to look at the air going into my intercooler and the air temp coming out of my intercooler to look at the efficiency if I'm interested in that efficiency. But at this time, I'm really not. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take this bung. I bought a bung, and this is what my, I don't know if you guys can see it while I'm moving around here, getting crazy. I ordered the Holley. This is the Holley 534-20 sensor, and it says intake air, but it's funny that on the terminator they don't call it that. They call it the manifold air temp. So I definitely need to be on the other side of my intercooler, and you know, it really makes sense just looking at what they want you to measure. But since that is pressured air, it now has to be a threaded fitting, and it has to be in a bung. So I can't use it like I have my intake air. Over on this side, where I showed you guys on the last video, where I put the inlet air temp right here, this is non-pressurized air. This is pulling air into the turbocharger before it gets pressurized. The turbocharger pressurizes it and then sends it out down under here into the intercooler. Like I said before, cross the intercooler, comes right back around here, goes by the blow-off valve, which that's to reduce any excess pressure for when you let off your throttle, and then it goes right into the intake. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna remove this piece of pipe right here and take my blow-off valve off of it just so that I can move it around. I'm going to put the sensor down right under here because I've got some room, and I'm gonna have to run the wire to it off of the harness. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and take this tube off, and I'm gonna drill a hole in it and weld that bung on it. And we'll be back and see how that works out. Hopefully I don't ruin the tube and have to find me another 45-degree tube, aluminum pipe. I don't have any more at this time. So we'll see what happens. I'll be back. Okay, I got my intake pipe off. Got it halfway marked, kind of where I want it. I went ahead and took the blow-off valve, off the top of it. Like I said, I've got a plug stuck into this bung just so that it, I don't know if it'll warp or distort or anything while I'm welding it, but just in case, got something in there to hopefully make sure it doesn't happen. So I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to drill a hole in this and put a hole in it right here so that I can slip my bung in it. All right, I'm back. So I got my hole drilled, got it drilled in the back of the pipe, got it set up so that my bung fits nice and snug. I was going to say fits nicely, but of course, like everybody knows, with one hand, it's kind of hard to do anything. But fits nice and snug in there. Got a little bit of gap when I press it down. Got a little bit of gap on the sides, on this side and this side. I don't think I'm really going to worry about it too much. I think I'm just going to take this sucker and see what I can do, and if I can glob some rod on it and take this little sucker in place. So I'll be back. All right, so I just cleaned up around this thing, cleaned up the surface around where my hole is, where I'm going to be welding, and I ran around the fitting and just kind of took the shiny finish off the fitting. And so that's what I did. I've got it cleaned up, and I just used a 3M. This is a 3M roll-lock disc for aluminum, and it's a real fine disc and works really good on cleaning up aluminum surfaces. So I'm going to put a little bit of acetone on it and just do a little final cleanup, and then we're going to see how bad of a TIG welder I really am. So I'll be back. Okay, after a lot of trial and error, I have my manifold or intake air temp sensor welded onto my intake tube. And I've got my blow-off valve back on. I kind of polished up the pipe because just moving it around in my vise, I kind of scratched it up a little bit. So hit it with 400 grit sandpaper and polished it a little bit with like a little die grinder with an Amazon buffing pad and a little bit of Mother's mag polish. So I'm going to go ahead and put this thing back in and see if I drilled my hole and installed it in the right place. I'll be back. All right. Well, finished it up, installed it, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's way down inside right here. That's it right there. And it's in a pretty good spot. It's probably an inch or so away from the radiator, and it's in a spot where when my harness is in here in the middle and I'm coming through, I should be able to zip tie the wire up to something. So that was my little project for today. I've got my coil harness. I got both of my coil harnesses in. I've got my plug wires, Taylor plug wires on. I've got my injector harnesses on. So getting ready to pull my main harness through the middle. Just working on some of these little things that I know I need to get done. And the air temp was one of them, the manifold air temp. So that's all I've got for this one. Nice little short one. Thanks. I hope everybody's having a great day.